Welcome back to Popcast. We're diving back into our conversation with Steven Purri, flow state expert and founder of the Suka Company. To get caught up with the conversation where we discuss what flow state is, check out the last episode. Now, we're chatting about practical entry points into flow state for both ourselves and the students in our classrooms. Here we go.
Okay, well, I am definitely intrigued on how we get into the flow state.
Let's talk about it.
As teachers, how can we get there? And then maybe move into how can we bring it into our classroom for our students?
Awesome. Super applicable. And something that you guys had mentioned that I want to honor here is you said there is a use case of like educators saying, in my time where I'm doing something, I need to access things like flow state, but help me. And there's also the, let me pass along to the next generation. Here's a tool that they may use on their own when studying. They may use in class, like there are many places, but it's sort of like, hey, you guys need a screwdriver. Here's where you find them. Here's how it works. Use it as appropriate, right? So let's talk about that. Now, one area in which there's been a ton of research is music. Music has been shown to help a lot of people get into flow. It sort of helps the brain get there. Now, there is the sweet spot for most people, which is music that is 60 to 90 beats per minute. It is non-vocal. You're not singing along with Blackpink or Britney Spears or whatever show tunes Travis likes. No judgment. It is.
Thank you.
Interesting that we all have the friend, as much as you can see this thing of like, oh, it's kind of long, melodic stretches, it's non-vocal. We always have the friend that's like 90s gangster rap is how I get it. And if it works for you, God bless. Let it work for you.
Feels so real.
I'll tell you, this is where Steven had some learnings. If you'd like to hear this part, when I had that moment of, we're going to create a simple website with a big play button that sort of blocks distractions, plays music, does something, right? So I happen to have worked in film, where a bunch of friends who are film composers with time on their hands, because business is not as robust as it once was, right? Hey guys, here's the research. Can you write like 1,000 hours of original music, sort of like this? Some more upbeat, some down tempo. We have like 3 lo-fi channels, like stuff like that, but essentially like within these specs. Great, throw it up there. Here's a little twist in the story. Buddy of mine, Julian, up in Marin, he works for LucasArts, Lucasfilm, doing essentially the sound for Star Wars games, right? Calls me up out of the blue. He's like, hey, man, I just got back in town. I think I have something for you. I was like, what? He goes, well, I was in Nepal. It was my son's high school graduation present. I guess he did very well and he got into a good college, whatever. And so he's like, what do you want? And his son was like, I want to go to Nepal. I've always want to go. So he's like, okay, we're going to Nepal. He said, so one day there, it was pouring rain to the extent we couldn't go out. I happened to have some of my recording equipment with me. And it was this lush, beautiful, warm rain. So I recorded like 2 hours of rain. I got back and I'm like, what am I going to do with this? It's not really going to be a Star Wars game. And I remembered you have that flow state app. Do you want it? And I was like, sure. Oh, for free? Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Julian. Okay, cool. So I was like, why don't we just create a playlist quietly? We'll call it like Himalayan Dream Rain and just drop it in the middle of all these playlists. See? Okay, cool. It became our 3rd most popular playlist without mentioning it to people, which I found fascinating. And I run the platform, so I know everyone's email addresses. So I emailed some people I saw listening to it. I was like, could you spare like 5 minutes and just Zoom with me? Because I'd love to understand. Essentially, we paid a ton of money for this custom, like film composed music, and you're listening to Rain. Help me understand. What did I do wrong, right? And I'll tell you this is a little reductive, but if you were to boil down what they said, it all came down to the same thought, which is, oh, listening to Rain is a trigger for me because in my youth, I would listen to this. I would hear Rain when I was studying, when I was deep in, like I was raised by my grandmother in Georgia. Around finals, it would always rain. Oh, we have a lake house. I would go there. And I was like, oh, so that is a mental trigger. Mine goes, got
Mm.
it. We're inside. We can't go out. We're going to focus on this thing, right?
Well, I'm just thinking like that's my favorite time to curl up with a book is when it's raining. Like
Right?
that's the
Very
time where
powerful
I just want
association,
to
right?
curl up there. Yeah, for
So I
sure.
love to experiment. And I was like, oh, I'm onto something here. Right? Found or I called naturescapes. I was like, oh, you know what?
Yeah.
Here's a recording someone made of a lake in Emerald Lake up in Canada near where Tony, my partner, lives. As some weird indigenous bird. It's quiet here, like the water lapping on the side of the lake. Found the surf in Cyprus. Someone had recorded a stream in Japan. What are these up?
Hmm.
Flatline, no interest. Like, nobody listens to them. I leave them up there just in case someone finds it someday. And I was like,
That's
okay, so those don't
interesting.
have the same
Yeah. Huh.
trigger as rain. So it really is one of those know thine self things where it's like, oh man, I'm a lo-fi, like down tempo guy. I'm a rain girl, whatever. But I will tell you this. There is a pretty well-known blogger in the UK who's one of our members. When she saw my little experiment with throwing up like the stream and the surf, and she said, I can tell you're opening your mind to more things than music. Can I tell you, everyone thinks I write my blog because it's pretty well known. She writes in this coffee shop, right? She's like,
Mm.
I had a child during COVID. I actually don't go to that coffee shop anymore because you can't really go in with like a 2-year-old and try and be like the cool cafe writer girl. You know, sort of thing. She's like, would you consider putting up like a playlist that's just like the background sounds of a coffee shop? Found some dude in Vienna, Austria, who had recorded his local coffee shop, threw up there, and it became super popular because for
Mm.
writers, it was a trigger of saying, like, oh, I've always wanted to envision myself part of this like European cafe culture of like the great writers sitting on the boulevards. It's fascinating. So the
Mm.
first thing I want to say is this, which is as you understand the things that get you into flow, your sound, your oral environment is clearly an important one. Yes, the research says here's some music, a lot of like Endel, Brain FM, YouTube. Like you can find fantastic music. You don't have to get it from Suka, but find the thing that works for you. And if it's not music, that's totally cool. It may be rain. It may be sounds of a coffee shop, you know?
I think maybe just to take the point into the classroom a little bit, I could really envision this in the classroom if we're doing writing or reading,
Mm-hmm.
maybe at the start of the school year, the teacher maybe kind of manipulating the soundtrack to play in different spaces for a while
Mm-hmm.
and then
Mhm.
give students the opportunity to reflect after. Maybe this week we did naturescapes, next week we are doing lo-fi, then we're
Yeah.
doing something else, classical string music. What I'm trying to think of the
Yes.
things that I maybe
No, but
naturally
very
go
much.
to.
And letting them reflect upon, well, you know what would work for Whitney was she really responded to that lo-fi day we did yesterday. Like today, I really found my groove writing, my essay as we were
Hmm.
listening to, like you said, like this other, lo-fi or soundscape or whatever.
Well,
So
and I'd be interested too, like just when we do our interest surveys at the beginning of the year, about finding what kind of books that we like and what kind of authors that we like and topics. We could even add in what sounds calm you, what sounds put you into a calming state of mind. Like it'd be interesting to see what the kids would say without even trying this
and
experiment first of
it,
just kind of gathering
it
what
is
they are
interesting.
already thinking.
It is interesting. I'll tell you this. Some people associate flow music with calm, put you to sleep,
Hmm.
like bring my emotions down. And flow music actually it doesn't calm you as much as it helps you block out other thoughts.
Right,
And
right. Focus.
sometimes people will choose, like people who are trying to flow for the first time,
Hmm.
they will choose things that they like, which are not
Hmm.
necessarily the ones conducive to them falling into flow. So I
Mm.
will say this whatever you use, whether it's Spotify, Brain FM, Endel, Suka, whatever, experiment with things that have been designed for flow and see
Mm.
if one of them works for you as opposed to going to your go-tos like oh I always listen
Right.
to whatever, right?
Yeah.
I for example I grew up with classical music. My brother is a professor of music at UVA, dual doctorates from Yale in musicology and music theory and the whole thing, so that's part of. But I'm telling you, if I listen to classical music, it distracts me from the work as opposed to blocks out the rest.
Yeah. Because I used to always play classical music in my classroom during writing time.
It's
Right.
actually really
Now I'm like
complex.
rethinking,
Classical music
what
is,
other
I mean,
things could we try?
if you listen to classical music, it is complex beyond a pop song.
Hmm.
And lo-fi and slow music is often designed to have like long melodic passages that lull you into a certain sense of rhythm, as opposed to, like pop songs like this beat, like this, same three chords. Whereas classical music is very intricate in how the things change. So it's actually takes a little more bandwidth of your brain to listen to classical than to listen to flow music. So fair enough. Should we move on? When you guys are focused, did you ever get distracted by your phone, your portable telephonic cellular device?
When we're focused, no.
Oh, that's good. Okay.
But so I'm focused all the time.
Travis?
It does capture me out, just the ding, knowing what that represents, that sound represents.
Yeah, it's weird.
It always pops me out. Like, and then I have to go through the process of checking my email, checking this, looking at this.
Right?
It feels like it puts me in that loop.
Yeah. If you think about sound, vibration, and color that have been A/B tested on billions of people to be the absolute most addictive that they could be, it's really hard to imagine how you're going to resist, right? It's funny if you think of a tug of war, and on one side you have the smartest engineers, designers working for trillion-dollar companies, and the other side of the rope is you. And you're like, this is a tug of war for my life. And y'all are really well funded and really, smart.
Yeah.
So let me talk about phone's distraction, right? Because phone is my worst one. And when new members join, we often talk about like, what's your biggest distraction? Phone is by far that thing, right? It is our portal to our friends, our family, content that's fun to watch, ordering food, knowing about the world, like tons of stuff, right? Now, one thing we found was there are some great applications that basically like brick your phone, lock it, you can't get in. I'm the next hour, I'm in focus mode, right? Two things were problematic about that in talking to members. One is sometimes they won't activate that because they're thinking, oh gosh, I'm not sure if I really for an hour, what if I get an important call or something and it's bricked and you can't get, that sort of thing. And then the friction of, well, I have to go in and set it up and go into focus mode from settings and do the thing and pick how long I'm going to do. It's interesting how those things are available, but they're not actually that helpful, because a very important part of this is if music is really helpful, blocking your environment around you, like for your phone and your websites and things like that, are also very powerful. So in talking with people saying like, let me ask you this, what would be the best way for you to have that, hey, I don't need to be on my phone thing right now? And a lot of people said, you know what? If I had a friend sitting next to me and they saw me touch my phone, they're just like, hey man, like, is that helping you? That's kind of all I need. I just need that 1 second of like, hey man, like, or hey girl, whatever, not gender specific, just carbon-based life forms. But, hey, is that helping? And that's treat me like an adult and I can act like an adult, right? So I'll tell you, when we were designing Suka, one of the things we did is we said, okay, what if you start your session and there's just a QR code that comes up for a few seconds. You can tap with your phone and put it down. And if you pick up your phone, your laptop says to you, hey, I see you on your phone. Is that helping? And it's proven to be super popular because it's almost frictionless. And it's that level of a friend just being like, hey man, I know you want to be done at 3. You pick up that phone, you're knocking down the track. So just decide now, as opposed to have Instagram decide for you that you're going to be frustrated at 6, right? So blocking distractions out of your phone, super popular. Some people, like we even, at one point, we made these like phone coffins that we gave to people that have a little hole on one side. You can like stick your charging cable in, put it in here, and it's hard to hear it vibrate,
Nice.
And, it may be a little overdone. Maybe it was a funny gesture more than a realistic one, but it's a big deal. Like phone addiction is real. And that's why there's such a business around counseling people with phone addiction. So as we bring this back, as Travis, I know, is written across your forehead, like bring this back to education, educators, right? So when you think about this, I know in some classrooms, in some schools now, you don't have phones as present as they were 5 or 10 years ago. People are hip to it. They're like, okay, we need to figure out how to put guardrails around the bad stuff, right? However, when your students leave, they are not going to have those same rules enforced, right? So if you can give them a path to say, oh, wow, like this feels good to be done on time or to be less stressed than to be up all night. One of those things is find some tool. There are many apps that block websites. There's Cold Turkey and Freedom, blah, 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 and some of them are free where it's just try it and see where that gets you. You know, the ultimate goal is not to block your phone distractions, your website distractions, to play music. The ultimate goal is to feel happy, to feel self-realized. Maybe I wrote a great essay, or I wrote the screenplay, or I wrote the book, whatever it is, you know, and or the lesson plan. Like you said, this is also applicable for educators who are saying, hey man, I got an hour or two in the morning. I need to go do all this work. Get me so I can do it well, right? We named the company, like our company has a really weird name, the Suka Company, right? What's that about? I'll tell you, this is when we were creating this, I had every bad name possible. You can imagine flow state app, this distraction blocker app, 19, garbage. And Laura and I got married. We had met in yoga. I married the girl that met to my left in yoga, right? So where do you go on your honeymoon when you do daily yoga together? We went to Bali, right? Really nice. So we're flying there. And I said to her, you know, the biggest frustration in my life right now is I have all these bad names. I did the exercise of writing down every version of the, I'm like, everything on my list is so awful. And she said, you know what? The next 2 weeks, everyone from the office knows, leave you alone. You're on your honeymoon. Maybe your unconscious mind will bubble something up. The muses will speak. It's cool. Yeah, let's see. And I said, I just aspire to something that's like Amazon's not called like online bookstore place. You know, like Nike is a cool idea that's not called like the shoe company, you know? And so we got there, we got to the hotel, and I said to Laura, you know, something that might help seed my unconscious mind the next 2 weeks is, do you mind if I just have a couple like 5 or 10 minute Zooms with some of our current beta testers and just ask them, what do they like about it? What's their favorite thing, right? She said, I'm going to the pool, but I will see you at dinner. Bye. Zooms, right? I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So
in Bali, yeah, let's do it.
I know. Yeah, exactly. Enjoy. So I spoke to 3 people. I dropped in the group chat who was time to talk. And I'll tell you, the third person I spoke to was a guy. And he said, we did our 8 minutes or so. I said, I really want to respect your time. We said 10 minutes. We should wrap up. Thank you so much for everything you said. Your favorite feature is this. And he said, Steven, you asked the wrong questions. And I was like, oh, okay. Guy that I don't know that well. What was the right question that I should have asked? He said, you should have asked me why I pay you. I was like, it's a couple bucks a month. Like, I didn't think it's a big deal, but okay, fair enough. Why do you pay me? He said, I find the past year I have 2 kinds of days. At 3 o'clock, I'm playing with my kids. They're 2 and 4 right now. Or at 6 o'clock, I'm down on myself. I'm like, where did the day go? I was busy all day. I didn't get it done. And I realized the difference is, did I open your app in the morning? So I pay you because my kids are not going to be 2 and 4 forever. I was like, okay, you won that round. Like, that's a way better question answer than what I was thinking. So I would go to dinner with Laura. I was like, I spoke to this dude who's more articulate about what I do than I am. And I told her that. She's like, yeah, you should hire him. Like, that's the most clear articulation of what you're trying to do than anything you've ever said. Right? And so we're going to bed, like, you know, cute little honeymooners on our first night, wearing a little white spa robes, brushing a little teeth. And she looked at me with a mouthful of toothpaste. She goes, you know, in yoga, we hear all these terms like your karma and your dharma, your duty in life, and, you know, your prana, your life force. She's like, that dude described to you sukha, the feeling when you were in your lane, doing what you're meant to do, and you're good at it. You're in control of your life. She's like, that's what he's trying to tell you. He's like, he wants sukha. He doesn't want to work faster. He doesn't want a flow state app. He doesn't want a distraction blocker. He wants to be in control of his day. You should call it the Sukha Company. And I looked at my little phone. It was available for $14, the domain. And I bought it from Bali and we went to bed. And that is a daily reminder to me of how do we help people get to that state of, I feel ahead of my day rather than behind my day. How do I get to the place of, oh, I wrote the chapter. Today's goal was write chapter 12. I wrote it.
We work so much with students about understanding what they can control and what they cannot control, and just being in control of your day, like that piece right there, being in the mindset that you are in control of your day, I think is really important to
feels great. Yeah.
I just take that back to the interest inventory again. Like now I want to add to that, what distracts you and just to bring things more to their self-awareness of what is
Yes.
around them that's causing them to not be in a flow state.
And probably,
To
exactly.
help
And
with that.
probably to do the same thing I did in the early days, which is to say, hey, what is it? Oh, your phone. Okay, gotcha. Oh,
Right.
YouTube gets you. Oh, da, da. And to say, well, what would be the easiest way to stop that?
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Yeah.
how we arrived at the thing of someone saying, really, if my friend was sitting next to me, like at a study hall, and they're just like, Whitney's, is that helping you? That's all I really need is we go, no, dude, you're right. Yeah, let me put that down. That sense of,
Yeah.
oh, this is how you keep yourself towards releasing your greatness, as opposed to buying Mark Zuckerberg a yacht.
Thinking about my classroom practice, something that you have that's easily accessible within the app is the timer, and that specific of the Pomodoro.
Oh, you want to talk about Pomodoros?
I would love to, because I found that, oftentimes, I'm sure as it is with many teachers, you run into certain students or groups of students that kind of challenge you, and you are looking for solutions. For me, when I was looking at writing or projects or any like classroom aspects, there was
Sure.
a certain school year, a certain class that really being on task was an issue for them. So that led me into studying and trying to implement that Pomodoro as a, hey, here's a time frame. Let's take care of business within that time frame. So it was very intriguing to me. Then I was very happy to see it connected within the app. So I'd love for you to, maybe people who aren't
Yeah,
familiar with
let's talk
that.
about that.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Mhm.
again, standing on the shoulders of giants, right? So Francesco Trullo, Italian guy who came up with this, which he tested on himself, this theory of there should be a regular cycle, a cadence of taking breaks, rejuvenating your brain, your body, that will yield greater output over the same amount of time than grinding it out continuously, right? It's called Pomodoro because Pomodoro, as you guys know, is Italian for tomato. And he used a kitchen timer that was shaped like a tomato. So that's why we call it the Pomodoro technique.
I
And
know, I love that.
he said the cadence that worked the best for him was 25 minutes of work, 5-minute rest, repeat that cycle a few times, then about every 2 hours, take a slightly longer, break. And that worked for him. Now, I will say this. I tried the Pomodoro technique because in my exploration of like, oh, smart people have written tons of stuff about how to, use your brain better. Let me see. Pomodoro didn't work for me, but it almost worked. And what I found was usually after 25 minutes, I was in the middle of a thought or a middle of something. I'm like, oh, I don't want to take a break right now. And I found my cycle is more about 45 or 50 minutes. And then I'll take 5 or 10 minutes off. But the concept being the same, the details may change. The concept of, wow, it really is helpful if you stand up after 25 or 45 minutes, walk downstairs, get a glass of water, go outside, see the sun, just something like that. And you come back with a renewed sense of clarity and vision and energy. And that was something when we were, again, not to bring it too much to Suka, but I poured my heart into this, which is, we decided, you know what? Yes, Francesco has a very detailed method of how to do this. However, other people like myself may want to adapt it. So you can set your cadence to whatever you want. Mine is set to 50 and 10, right? 5-0, not 15. Work for 15 minutes, take 10 minits off. This is great. I love this cadence.
It's a great deal.
No, I'm kidding. But 5-0 and 10. And you can also edit it if you feel like, oh, I don't need a 10-minute break right now. You just click on the number and type in 5 and do whatever. And then that led to people on their breaks saying, well, what should I do? So when you are on break, when it says bing, you should take a 5-minute break now. We uploaded some videos. Oh, here's a desk stretch you can do. Or you know what? Go outside and walk for a moment. Have a glass of water. You want to do a breathing exercise? Something to try and bring the psycho and the somatic more in happy alignment than the psycho just beating the somatic into you're going to stay up with me all night as I do this, right? So yes, Pomodoro, big fan.
I use it when I run.
Yeah, you guys that run. I got to start running now.
Yeah, I run 5 minutes, walk a minute. That's just my cadence that I hit whenever I run. And I just
There's
stick to it from
something
the
to
very
that.
beginning. And it
Yes.
really, that 1 minute rest, like just rejuvenates and I'm ready to go again. So,
There you go.
yeah.
Okay.
And for teachers thinking about what we
Mhm.
know about movement and how beneficial it is to
Hmm.
run in conjunction with learning, I think offering that opportunity as we're planning out a class period, if we have 45 minutes or 90 minutes or
Hmm.
somewhere in between, I've found in supporting teachers and with colleagues in the classroom, when they offer movement at varying levels within a class period, students normally they're having a better time. They're thinking about that class in a more positive way. And unsurprisingly, right, based on what we know, it's because of that offering that movement, that opportunity to get up and stretch, let blood flow, maybe think about that new learning, let it consolidate a little bit before we revisit it and have that cognitive struggle with it. So I think it's a smart
Mhm.
concept to think about. So I appreciate
Highlight,
you.
underline, period. Totally with you. Yes.
Mhm. Wow. We've got some great takeaways. Thinking
Yeah. So
about,
sounds, removing distractions, time frames, Pomodoros.
Yes. Can I throw one other random thing in there? This is
Yeah,
something I
yeah.
noticed in my
absolutely.
film career. Um, so there are two parts to the story. So when I came up, as Travis, you mentioned, I came up doing computer generated effects, digital effects movies, right? Happened to work on True Lies, Independence Day. We won actually the Academy Award for Independence Day, the Seven, and a bunch of movies. So I set up a company with Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin after we'd won the Academy Award for Independence Day, and I was a young punk, but I was like, as one thinks in their 20s that you're smarter than you are, funnier than you are, more successful than you are, right? When they would go off and write, they would rent this villa in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. Apparently, beautiful white marble villa in the hills, whatever, right? And I remember Roland had asked his assistant, "Hey, go rent the villa. We need to go write." She came back that day. It was like, "Oh, it's rented." I mean, it was like an Airbnb before Airbnb. It was just someone had rented it before. And Roland called his entertainment attorney, fantastic attorney, this guy, John Deemer. It was like, "Hey, John, buy the villa." By Monday, Roland owned a $5 million villa in Mexico.
Oh, gosh.
And I, as a little kid from Virginia, was like, what just was that? Oh my God. That was like buying lunch. What? And I talked to Dean, and I was like, Dean, can you explain to me, like, what is that about? And he said, listen, here's the thing. There's a room down there in this villa where in the morning the light comes in over the pool and it inspires. We don't think about our agents. We don't think about cast availabilities. We don't think about studio notes. We just write the movie we'd want to see. He said, so it was kind of worth it for us. Okay, cool. So they went down there and wrote the next thing, 7 weeks. Like he came back with the script that became the third highest grossing movie in film history. And it was worth it for them. So this association of place with your mind being in a certain mindset, I thought was really interesting. But I'll tell you, it's not that you need a $5 million villa, because years later, I was a development executive at DreamWorks. I was executive vice president for Kurtzman Orsi at DreamWorks. And Alex Kurtz and Bob Orsi, for those who don't know, because who would know, is they're the writers behind Transformers 1 and 2 and Star Trek 11 and Mission Impossible 3 and Zorro and like tons of Fringe, tons of stuff. They're awesome guys. And when they were under the gun, our offices at DreamWorks were on the little Amblin area of the Universal Studios lot in Hollywood, right? It's beautiful areas. Steve had custom built, all looks like Southwestern Adobe buildings and magical.
Mm.
They were pulling down 1.5, 2 million a script, right? They could easily go to Bali and go write for 2 weeks, whatever. They would have their assistant rent a room at the Universal Hilton across the street. And I'm just going to say, this is not a luxury property. This is where you go with your kids the night before you go on the rides, and then you get the hell out of Hollywood, right? And I thought to myself, why would they go there when they have like their, And it hit me. They met back when they were students. Like Bob was a UT Austin dropout, and I think there was something about Kurtzman being on the edge of the bed with his laptop and Bob being at the little desk on his laptop that evoked like dorm room. It brought them back to
Mm.
We're these scrappy writers who have to prove ourselves. Even though they're writing Transformers 2 for $2 million, it got them to that mental trigger of, we got to buck it out and do this. We got to prove, right? So the reason I share this is when I started working from home, as many people do, and I imagine, many educators, when they're not, in class, they are doing lessons plans and grading stuff at home. I made a huge mistake. I have a laptop, as many people do, right? In the morning, the light is beautiful in the kitchen. I'm in the kitchen. I'd work from the kitchen table for a while. Come upstairs, work here in my office for a bit in the middle of the day. End of the day, maybe Laura would be here, would sit on the sofa and work down in the living room. And I realized it was kind of chaotic for my mind.
Mm.
And I stopped doing that. I said, you know what? My office is going to be a place where this is what gets done. And I'll tell you this, since I made that decision, when I enter my office, my brain kind of clears now. I'm not thinking about the dishes. I'm not thinking about the TV in the room. I come here, I do this. And when I leave, I feel a sense of relief. Even though part of the benefit of being at home is like, you can go to the fridge anytime you want and you can like be multitasking with the laundry going, like that sort of thing. It didn't work well for my brain. My brain wanted to say, oh, this is the place you do this thing. Just like Roland Dean saying it's worth $5 million for us to have this room to go write Independence Day and Godzilla and whatever else. Or Alex and Bob to say we need a hotel room that reminds us we're in a dorm and we got to prove that we're able to do this,
Yes.
So I offer that thought, which doesn't relate to anyone's app or anyone's whatever, but it's just understand the same way music can be a trigger, like we talked about rain, coffee shop.
Mm-hmm.
Place can be a trigger for your brain to go, oh, I get it.
This is what I need to do. Yeah, because my
sorry.
office is the same way. When I go into my office, I actually get stuff done. If I
Yeah.
take my laptop somewhere else in the house, there's too many other
Bingo. That's exactly that is exactly how I am.
Yep. Very interesting. So another thing to add to that little survey, I'm just like thinking, at the beginning of the year, just some things that we could ask kids to start thinking about flow state and maybe describe a place that would help you. And I love the release greatness, how you keep bringing that up. So I'd love to say, ask students to describe a place that would help them focus and release greatness and just see what they would say to it, right? And just get some ideas of kind of where they are, and maybe then ask them this throughout the year, maybe a mid-year and an end year, just to see if they've grown a little bit in
And
understanding
I know this may be
their
a little
awareness.
afield from what we talk about normally, but to set their minds thinking from that bar, from like, you have greatness. I know you have greatness inside. I want to help you release it, as opposed to like, are you any good?
I
It's
love the
weird.
release greatness idea. Like that, that's definitely something I'm going to use in the future.
Please do. And in general, like in life, we often project or rub off on people ideas about them that affect their own ideas of how they are, Like this one of the things Laura and I talked about, having a young child, which I will tell you, I don't like children. I've spent my life making sure I did not have children, right? And with Laura, I suddenly had this moment of like, actually, I think the world would be cooler if there are little versions of you running around. Let's do this. So we did this, which meant for me, I had to suddenly, after a lifetime of not thinking about raising children, go, oh, I need to treat this seriously. I need to now be a good dad with no forethought of no planning on this. And one thing that stood out for me was this, is a friend told me, your child is going to do things in school, stub their toe, fall off the bed, whatever, and they are going to learn from how you react to them, how they should be. And my God, with Satish, our little son, I see that. If he stubs his toe or whatever, or something akin to that, you're like, oh my God, are you okay? No. He immediately goes, oh, I must be in a lot of pain. This will be awful. As opposed to if you grab him and you go like, okay, let's go have something to eat. And he's just like, okay, on to the next thing. And wow, is that true? People,
it's so true.
You affect people by how you show them they should be. My mom is, I think, Travis, you and I talked about, my mom was a high school math and science teacher in the Bronx, which is hard, but she saw that as a really important part of where she needed to be, was there saying like, no, there is a future you could have that is not, I mean, you can, extrapolate the rest.
Yeah, that power of suggestion to open those doors through that. I think that's one of the maybe long payoff benefits of being an educator. Running into students later, I just ran into a former student last weekend in the parking lot of a grocery store, and it was just
really
very life affirming for all of those long days, all of the papers graded, all of the things that you could, look at as like the negatives. It was all worth just that 5 minute conversational catch up, and to hear just the success that she was having in her life, and to go back even 10, 12 years before, the how important that seventh grade language arts classroom was for her. It was great.
It really
That
is
is-
one of the best things
yeah.
about being a teacher is later, so much later, that comes back to you.
Yeah.
That is cool. Well, for everyone who is still listening to this episode, I'm very grateful. I hope there have been some actionable parts of it, maybe some entertaining parts.
Oh, I think so.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Stephen, we totally appreciate your time. Thank you
Yes.
for
Yeah, thank you for having me on.
all of it. The stories, the message, for the work that you're doing to
Mhm.
support this state, as well as just benefiting humanity. Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
That is very kind of you to say. Yeah, hoping that some way, in my own little way, it helps us have a happier world. There's enough division. There's enough
Yes.
strange incentives. So it'd be nice to have more incentives around, like, feel great about what you did today.
I love it. And thinking about how we can release that greatness onto the next generation.
Yeah,
Thank
that
you for
doesn't
that.
involve call shear poly market, right?
Yeah. Thank you for that, Stephen. So
Travis got that one. He's like, okay.
I got it.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me. And, take care.
Yes. Awesome.
Yeah, such a pleasure.